Go ahead and sit and stand for a moment. We're going to stand up. Pledge of Allegiance. Start. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Good evening. I'm Gordon Street. I'm the chair of the Lincoln Lakes Regional Democratic Committee, which is hosting this Meet the Candidates event. And we welcome you all to what we hope is going to be just the first of 3 of these forums. This is to give you the opportunity to meet Democratic candidates for next year's elections, and this one is going to give you a chance to meet and ask questions of and chat with 3 of the Democratic candidates for governor, as well as 2 of their representatives. Secretary of State Shenna Bellows, former FBI agent Jason Cherry, former Maine Senate President Troy Jackson, and representing the Speaker of the Maine House, Hannah Pingree, is Emily Kane, and Katie Lewis is representing former Director of the Maine CDC, Narada Shaw. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Angus King, who's the founder of Peaks Renewables and son of Angus King III, who's the son of our U.S. Senator, was unable to send a representative. They did send some brochures that I'll place at the registration table for those who are interested to take. He is hoping to come up and meet people up in this area at a later date. First, before we get started, I want to take a couple of minutes to introduce you to the members of the Lincoln Lakes Regional Democratic Committee, which is hosting this event, starting with members of the Executive Committee. I am very proud of this remarkably committed, talented, and capable group for their hard work and persistence in promoting democratic ideals and growing the LLRDC. Only 3 to 4 years ago, we were lucky to get 4 local Democrats to come together for the monthly meetings for the entire committee. Now, those meetings typically attract as many as 35 members, and we're still growing. Our vice chair is Kevin Ritchie. Our treasurer is Kat Jewell, hiding over there in the back. Our secretary is Joey DiPentino, a high school student from Madawacook Academy here in Lincoln. We suspect he's the youngest executive committee member of a Democratic committee in the state. And rounding out the executive committee, we've got Matt Case of Passadumkeag, Mary LaMonaco of Lincoln. Is Mary here? Haven't seen Mary. All right. Denise Moore of Lee. Oh, Denise is not here. Okay. Gordon Mott of Lakeville. And Amanda Roy of Lincoln. I also want to make a brief mention. Unfortunately, our former LLRDC chair, Natalie T. Pentino, who is Joey's mother, is not here tonight, but without her, none of us would be doing any of this today, because she was one of the founding members of the Lincoln Lakes Regional Democratic Committee, long name, and pretty much single-handedly kept it going until she handed over the reins to me a couple of years ago. So I always like to let everybody know that she's an amazing woman, and I wish you were here to hear that. So, and now LLRDC, the rest of, actually, let's just have all of the LLRDC membership. Please, if you've attended any of our meetings or supported us in other ways, please stand up. Thank you all very much. Finally, I'm going to introduce you to Pastor Kathy Gentner, another LLRDC member who's going to provide our invocation and lead us in prayer.
Good evening. Let us be in a spirit of prayer.
Dear God, we thank you that we can come together here tonight in freedom, though at this time in history, that freedom is being threatened by the dark forces of tyranny. We remember those brave patriots at the Boston Tea Party 252 years ago on this very night, who fought for democracy and against taxation without representation by throwing thousands of pounds of tea into Boston Harbor. May our leaders who are here tonight be inspired by those who have gone on before them to fight against those who want to take our blood-born freedoms away and put a king back on the throne. We lift up in prayer those in our country and our world who have been the victims of violence and prejudice. We pray for the survivors and families of the recent shootings at Brown University, for our Jewish brothers and sisters at Bondi Beach in Australia, and our Somali brothers and sisters who are our fellow Mainers. We pray for the family of Rob and Michelle Reiner and all those affected by mental illness and substance abuse. We ask, dear Lord, that you protect and keep safe all of us here tonight, especially those who are seeking the office of governor. We also pray for our enemies and those who wish us harm, knowing that only love can extinguish the fire of hate and violence. We are all your children, no matter what our color, sexual orientation, income, gender, or where we are on life's journey. Help us to live in the light of your Son, Jesus, who came to save the world and not to condemn it. In Jesus' precious name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Kat. Before we continue, I want to acknowledge that the LLRDC recognizes we are standing on Wabanaki homelands within the lands and waters of the, see if I can say this, Chikuweb Unahagig, okay? Not very good for that one. A place stewarded by the Wabanaki people for over 13,000 years. We recognize the sovereignty of the Abenaki, the Maliseet, the Micmac, the Passamaquoddy, and the Penobscot nations. Let's see, I already put that in there. So, now, let me explain to you briefly how we plan the rest of this evening. First, I'm going to introduce each one of the speakers tonight and invite them to each give about a 5-minute speech. And we should add, we are rural Mainers here, so we're particularly interested in what you all think are the issues particularly important to rural Mainers and how you plan to address them. Then each speaker is going to leave us and get settled in one of the classrooms on the floor. There's going to be 4 down this hall this way and 1 over here. And where you will be able to greet each one individually, ask questions, chat a bit, and hopefully get to know them. It is not a debate, so we will not be asking any questions of them here. We will let you do that on your own. After that, after we've given them a moment to sit, you're going to be free to go to each classroom, spend some time in meeting and getting to know the Democratic candidates for governor. You should know that this is a particularly important election for Democrats because Mainers have not elected consecutive governors from the same party since the 1950s, and we very much want to change that. So we're looking for a candidate who can not only win support of Maine Democrats, but also independents and even some Republican voters. All right, now let's get started. We're starting, they did a nice job of sitting right where I wanted them. They're in alphabetical order. How perfect. Okay. We're beginning with our current Secretary of State, Shenna Bellows. She was born in Greenfield, Massachusetts, which happens to be just a short distance from where my mother and sister now live, so I know the area. But she was raised in Hancock County, Maine, where her family lived without electricity or running water until she was in the 5th grade. She served as executive director of the ACLU of Maine for 8 years, and she was elected 3 times to the state senate before being elected to Maine Secretary of State, the first woman to hold that position in the state of Maine. Shannon?
Thank you.
Good evening. It's really great to be here. I think it is really important that our next governor be the governor for the whole state and show up everywhere. And that includes in the second CD. So I want to share a little bit about me. When I was 2, I was the accident that made my parents change their plans for college and move to Maine. My dad started a carpentry business. He joked he couldn't find a job. I don't know if it was true or not. But he started his own business, and my mom worked nights in a light bulb filament factory that was in Sullivan at the time. And when I was 4, my parents were able to buy a piece of land. My dad worked days, my mom worked nights. They had a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 2-year-old in a tent while they dug out an old cellar hole. We lived in the basement that winter. And I remember that basement because one night water came in. We had one vehicle. We got in the vehicle, drove up to Bangor where my uncle lived. Door was locked and he wasn't home. So we drove back to Goldsboro where we had some friends, and they took us in for the night. Now, I went to Hancock Grammar School and Ellsworth High School. And but for quality public education, I would not be standing here before you today as Maine's first female Secretary of State and candidate for governor. I worked my way through high school and college. I waited tables, I worked retail, I worked in the kitchen of a lobster pound, I was a Subway sandwich artist. And I have had to work hard for everything that I've achieved, but I've had supports along the way. I don't need to learn how to talk to Trump voters. Half my family voted for Trump. And because I'm from CD2 and I live in CD2, I'm one of the only candidates in the race. There's one other, Democrat, who's won a Trump district in the state Senate and gotten reelected twice, even though that district, those 11 towns, voted for Donald Trump in 2024. So, what are the priorities for rural voters? I think they're the same priorities that there were when I was a kid, but honestly, life has gotten harder. The idea that 2 kids going a different path could get a piece of land and build a house in 2025 is a pipe dream unless they are related to wealth and power, and that is not right. So when we do affordable housing, it can't just be tax credits for the rich or for the wealthy corporations. It needs to be direct support for people trying to get a piece of land or for their first home. It needs to be investment in nonprofits who are actually doing the work to rehabilitate old housing stock and put people in it and keep it actually affordable. Last weekend I talked to a mom. Her son's an architect. He's working on an affordable housing project in the southern part of the state. He lives at home. He can't afford a unit in that affordable housing project, and he's a professional. And I'm sure it's even worse when you get in rural Maine. The other big issue is the economy. Donald Trump has taken this economy into the ditch with the tariffs with Canada, with the cuts to important programs, healthcare, our nonprofits, economic development, yanking the rug out of places like Lincoln. We are headed for a world of hurt, and we need candidates who know what it's like to work hard and will support small businesses and the rural Maine economy directly. As Secretary of State, I ran on a platform of modernization to try to make government more efficient, to actually cut red tape, not the Trump way. And we've done that. I implemented automatic voter registration of the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, so when you go to register to get your license for the first time, you can register to vote at the same time. I implemented online voter registration, so young people can register to vote. More than 35,000 Mainers did that last year. And I also implemented improvements at the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, appointments at the DMV. Now, I know they're far out in Bangor, but we just launched online renewal of Real ID, and we're about to bring a mobile unit, a mobile branch that could drive up to Lincoln and to other places around the state. So when I say I'm committed to cutting red tape, to cutting costs in government and making government work for working people, I mean it. The other big thing I think is property taxes. And the types of bills, like it is unconscionable that Lincoln taxpayers have been left holding the bag for the closure of the mill. I think the state needs to take responsibility, more responsibility than we have for public education, for supporting our towns and our counties. Quite frankly, we have got to do more to lower property taxes because people that already have a home, they're worried about staying in it. So economic issues are the biggest issues in this race. I'll just say one more thing that sets me apart. I don't blink. I don't cave. You probably heard me on Rick and George. I'm really, I had a Republican tell me last year, he said, you and Donald Trump are my favorite politicians. And I said, why? Because I'm no Donald Trump fan. I'm leading a 27-state coalition right now to stand up to Donald Trump. He said, you always say what you mean, and you do what you say you will do. You tell it like it is. That is who I am. Standing up for rural Maine, being honest, being direct, fighting for what is right, even when it is hard. And as your Democratic nominee for governor, I'm going to win this race by connecting with rural Maine as well as the southern part of the state, standing up to Donald Trump, protecting our democracy, and moving Maine's economy forward. Thank you so much. I really look forward to talking with you one-on-one. Thank you.
So, next we have that's okay, you can stay right there.
I'll stay with it.
That's right. Former FBI Special Agent Jason Cherry was born in Texas, lived in Colorado and Oregon, but moved to Maine and now lives in Unity so he could retire near his sons and to enjoy the outdoors. After serving as a defense attorney and a conservation officer, he joined the FBI after 9/11 as a special agent and handled drug and human trafficking cases before going into data privacy law, which I believe is what you do now.
That's correct. Thank you, everybody. So I know that for many here, I am not a well-known name, but I would like you to pay attention at least to some of the things that are resonating with the moderates and conservatives. And so, as said, how are we going to fix housing? How are we going to fix energy? How are we going to fix the things that are wrong in Maine? And we need to do that by reaching across the aisle. Now, so I don't have any bad blood with anyone in the legislature at this point, but what I want to do is bring to it the same executive skills that I brought as an assistant section chief. So my reform platform is ownership. There's a lot of things that are going on with the Republicans and conservatives. They too see that Austin, Ontario received $1.3 million for hunting land like some bad South Park episode. They understand that their choices are limited, our choices are limited, media is biased, and how do we fix that, folks? There used to be a time where they said, as Maine goes, so goes the nation. So where did we lose that initiative? It's from having common sense measures, talking reasonably, and informing one another. And so what I'm promoting here is transparency, competency, efficiency, and accountability. Those are the four things that are resonating with both moderates and conservatives. They want a government that is someplace where they can have input. So if you go to Cherry for Maine, or if we go back to the classroom, I'll give you a brochure that a lot of people have been talking about. It's called the Citizens Online Forum. So right now, Maine has one of the most advanced democracies out there. Each position is looked at like it is something that needs to have both values, but someone that has economics and a background to be successful. I'm not only an attorney, but I do also have a background in economics. And so with that, you can log online, you can comment on government decisions, you can even pass ballots. And so this is a more advanced form of democracy that is beginning to emerge in Europe. We need to get a hold of this. We are being flat-footed now by allowing media to tell us this politician is healthy, or this politician is not healthy, or this politician is on this platform. So we're getting all of our information. We have no reform. We have no back and forth two-way communications. So that's what that Citizens Online Forum, as a data privacy attorney, this is what I did in the FBI. I had 430 people and a budget of $150 million. And under a pressure cooker, I went through each year to make sure the budget was balanced and that issues were handled. That was a difficult situation. And so most of your politicians or candidates are going to have to address those issues, but also address the political and cultural divide. Now, as part of law enforcement, you have to de-escalate the type of toxic language that's going out there. And that is part of what the Citizens Online Forum would do. It would give not only our youth a platform to discuss political issues, but would also improve transparency. And so this is the reform that is actually resonating with the Republicans and Conservatives in Machias and Oxford, and it's something that I would like to promote as state administrator. I don't like the words governor. You're all adults. You all have a sampling of power, and you need someone that can work the middle and represent the entire state. Thank you.
Okay, next is former President of the Senate, Troy Jackson. Born in Fort Kent, he became a fifth-generation logger and now lives in Allagash. He started in politics during the 1998 logging blockade along the Canadian border, protesting the hiring of Canadian workers over Maine loggers, inadequate wages, and poor working conditions. After serving 6 years in the state house, he ran for the state senate in 2008 and kept getting reelected and became the president of the Senate in 2018 and might still be there if it weren't for term limits.
Good evening, everyone. It's great to be here in Southern Maine. Thank you, everyone. I really am very happy to be here. I actually spent a lot of time here back in '96, working as a logger. I actually spent a whole summer here working here. I lived at the Thomas Hotel. I believe it's called the Whitetail now. I had a great opportunity to understand this area a little bit better, chasing better opportunity as a logger, and that's exactly what this campaign for me is all about. Maine has had a lot of challenges over the years, and that's why I'm running for governor. That's why I ran for legislature. I feel very strongly that Maine has not gotten the opportunities that it should, and doesn't understand how working class people have not been treated the way that they should. I believe strongly that here in Maine we should have access to health care. We should have access to prescription drugs, property tax reform, child care, nursing homes, housing. These are all things that I believe that the next governor has to make very clear, and it's something that just yesterday I put out in my economic platform. Things that I want to fight for, and I don't think that, unfortunately, people in this race understand the urgency of, because that is something that I'm going to fight for, and I have over the last 20 years being in the legislature. The unfortunate thing was that I've had governors that have blocked me time and time again, and growing up as a common person, I watched my parents at a very young age. My mother was 16, my dad was 20 when they had me. I grew up on relief food. I grew up with my father that was getting unemployment. My whole family struggling, my whole community struggling. And having a hard time and worried all the time about finances. And when my parents, struggled like that, they fought a lot. It was a tough, time, and
I worried a lot about them, and at a young age, I eventually just worried that they should, separate. And when they finally did, I was happy about that because of the financial, challenges that they had. Later on, my dad took me in the woods with him, and I watched him, really struggle about, landowners pushing economic problems on him. And later on in life, I saw that same thing as a logger myself. And that is what I've seen throughout time here in Maine. People with power and influence that use people in a way that I didn't think was fair. That's why I run for the legislature. And since I've been in the legislature, I saw that same thing. People with power and influence always had their way. Governors that bent to that, vetoed bills that were good for everyday Mainers, but weren't good for corporate lobbyists, weren't good for big pharma, weren't good for people that made money. And that is what I want to change. I want to make it so that everyday working class people have a voice in this government, and they haven't. They really haven't. And people that are in the legislature understand that. They know that we haven't had the voice that we should have. And that's what I want to change, because I feel frustrated. People look at me all the time, they say, why are you angry? What do we have in this state to be happy about? Energy prices are too high, healthcare is out of reach, prescription drugs are out of reach, property taxes are out of reach. These things that we're all frustrated about. I was the second highest Democrat in the state of Maine, and I was told all the time, you're asking for too much. You're going too far. I don't believe that asking for things that everyday Mainers need and want is too much. I think what they're doing is too much. I think they're out of control, and that is why I'm fighting for everyday Mainers. I want to change the system. I think the status quo is asking for too much, and that is what I want to change. I want to make it so that everyday Mainers have a voice in government, and trust me, we don't right now. We need to change the system so that we are in the driver's seat and we have control. And trust me, we don't right now. And I guarantee you that if I'm governor, we will have a seat in government and we will have control finally.
Thank you. Emily Kane, who is here representing Formula's List, an organization that promotes pro-choice Democratic women running for office across the nation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here and back in Lincoln, and especially to be on the stage with my friends. I have an easy job tonight because I can't ask you to vote for me. I'm here to tell you and speak on behalf of my friend Hannah Pingree, who's running for governor. I am a former state senator from Penobscot County who very proudly represented Lincoln and 22 other communities in this county in the state senate. In fact, and I did the research today to check this, I am the last Democrat for non-local office to win Lincoln outright. That was in 2012. So you can clap. That's very nice. Very nice. But I'm here because I think we need to issue a challenge tonight for somebody other than me to hold that title after 2026. And I'm really encouraged. Hannah's going to be jealous that I got to come here tonight when I tell her about this awesome crowd. There's also an important caveat, which is if Jim Sutherland tells you any stories about knocking on doors with me in Lincoln, they're only half true. Because we did knock on all of the doors in this town. So I live in Orono. I'm decidedly not running for governor in 2026, but I'm proud to be here representing Hannah. Hannah's sorry not to be with us. She is physically too far away to get here, even driving at healthy speed limits above the law. We tried to do the math and it didn't work. But you have me, and I'm here to not only talk with you, but mostly to listen to you so I can take your concerns and thoughts back to Hannah after tonight. Hannah's from North Haven, Maine. That's a small island off the coast of Maine where the ferry ride from Rockland to North Haven is longer than the drive I took by time from Orono to here tonight. The truth is, for me, with Hannah, I've been ready for Hannah to run for governor for 20 years. We served in the state legislature together. She was 25 when she got elected. I was 24. But when Hannah was Speaker of the House and I was the chair of the Appropriations Committee, we faced the toughest budget at the time in state history. It was more than $1 billion structural gap facing the state. We were able to pass that budget not once, not twice, but 5 times with unanimous bipartisan support. It was really hard. There are many people in this room who were also there. It was difficult work. Hannah was Speaker of the House, and she made sure we all stayed at the table. And that's one of the biggest reasons I'm supporting Hannah, is because she doesn't back down. She stands up for her values. She stands up for Maine values and Maine people every single time. And she stays at the table to get it done. Hannah's a fighter, but she works with everyone, with Republicans, with Democrats, and she's ready to stand up for everything that you've heard articulated tonight and more. I've personally seen Hannah stand up to big chemical companies. I've seen her stand up to Republicans, and I'm proud to listen to her every day stand up for Maine and against Donald Trump, along with so many Democrats who are running across the state. Hannah is a doer. She's putting policies in place. She's already completed a housing tour all across Maine, where she's been listening to what the needs are on the ground and putting out real plans to address housing, which she sees as really one of the very top and toughest economic issues facing our state. Because if we can get housing right, we can build up from there. Hannah's building a campaign that has broad support. Last month, she rolled out the endorsement of Speaker of the House Ryan Fecteau and more than 100 current and former elected officials across the state. And just a couple weeks ago, she received the first ever Democratic primary endorsement from the Maine conservation voters because of her strong record of focusing on climate, on storm recovery, and on Maine's future economic growth through taking our environment seriously. What I will say is this, and I'll close because you really are here to hear from other people than me, is the stakes you've heard it already tonight, the stakes are high, and they really have never been higher for the future of our state, for the future of our country. And Hannah's running for governor, and I've seen her, I've been out on the trail with her, because she sees a future for Maine kids and for Maine families who deserve to grow up in a state with housing they can afford, with healthcare that's accessible, with strong education, and with hope on the horizon. And as Maine is being tested now with affordability crisis, with climate crisis, and by a federal government that's more interested in political power than actually helping people, Hannah knows that when Maine people work together, they can do hard things, and they can do them well together. So I'm proud to represent Hannah tonight. I will be in the last classroom, the one by the bathrooms. So come see me at the end of the hallway. I would love to visit with you tonight and take your concerns back to Hannah. And once again, it's great to be back in a community that I love and that I have literally visited every street of in my life, the community of Lincoln. Thanks so much.
And finally, Katie Lewis. She's the Organizing and Outreach Director for Nirav Shah's campaign. Before moving to Maine in 2022, she served in California Governor Gavin Newsom's Business and Economic Development Office. She now lives in Gray with her firefighter husband and their almost 3-year-old son.
Hello, and thank you all so much for allowing me to be here with you this evening. As was shared, my name is Kate. Is the microphone okay? Is it too much? Yeah. Okay, so closer is better. Perfect. Thank you. My name is Katie Lewis. As was shared, I'm the campaign's outreach and organizing director. Nirav is truly sorry that he couldn't be here tonight. He had a prior commitment he couldn't get out of, but he asked to make sure that you all know that. Ooh. Oh, hold on. Okay. That every question asked here will go directly to him, and he will answer those directly. I'd like to start by telling you a little bit about myself and why I support Nirav and what this campaign means to me. I am the mom of a Tasmanian devil, also known as my 3-year-old son. I'm the wife of a local firefighter, and I'm a community member in Gray. Like many of you here tonight, I spend most of my time thinking about bills. How much groceries will total, if our 2-person income will pay for daycare that month, how we will handle health insurance bills while also trying to negotiate everyday expenses. I've held neighbors as they debate getting medical care or saving up enough money to pay for their kids' Christmas presents. I've had conversations at transfer stations about housing needs. I've helped gather food and supplies for my son's daycare when families were pushed to the edge after SNAP benefits were cut. I've also had the opportunity to be in the room when community members talk with Nirav. And what I've watched time and again is how carefully he listens. That matters because listening is where good leadership starts. Nirav is a public health leader and lawyer. He's taken 2 oaths in his life, one to heal the sick in whoever house that is, and one to uphold justice. But the way that shows up isn't abstract. It's in how he prepares, how he weighs decisions, how seriously he takes the impact of those decisions and what impact they'll have on real people. For nearly 12 years, Nirav has been entrusted with protecting people's health. During COVID, when everything felt uncertain, he showed up calmly and consistently. He didn't pretend to have all the answers. He told Mainers what he knew, what he didn't, what we could do next, and he even made people laugh. When the immediate crisis passed, he kept fighting to protect Mainers. He helped lead Maine's response to PFAS contamination, working across agencies, issuing clear guidance, supporting testing, and helping implement some of the strongest protections in the country. After that, the Biden administration asked Nirav to serve as Principal Deputy Director of the US CDC. That meant helping to manage a massive agency with a massive budget, larger than the state government of Maine, to protect the health of the entire nation. It meant working with people you don't always agree with, staying focused on outcomes, and making decisions with major consequences. Earlier this year, Nirav was asked to serve the greater public once again, this time as a candidate for governor. Since starting this campaign, Nirav has crisscrossed the state, talking with Mainers and listening to their concerns. He sat down with teachers in a Brunswick family room and literally took notes as our state's educators shared the realities they see day in and day out. He listened as community members in Bangor spoke about economic uncertainty and an HIV crisis compounded by a housing crisis. When a mother in Portland shared how his COVID briefings gave her family hope as her son battled cancer, his first question was to ask how her son was doing. And he's doing well, by the way. Nirav has spent the last decade stepping into responsibility when people needed steady leadership the most. He's been trusted to run large institutions, manage massive budgets, and bring people together to solve some of our biggest problems. He brings that same clear, calm, and common sense leadership that Mainers saw during COVID to this campaign every day. I'm proud to stand in for someone who believes that leadership is about doing the most good for the most people. Thank you again for having me tonight, and I'm really looking forward to everyone's questions. And again, I promise they will go directly to him and he will answer them directly. Thank you so much for your time.
I'm not sure what's happening there, but I'm going to hold it. One more time, applause. This is a wonderful thing that they all came together. We're going to give them a few minutes to get settled. We'll have about 45 minutes to meet with each one of them. Matt